Tonight, 16,000 American men and women, perhaps some from your hometown, are on guard in the Philippine Islands. They are the lifeblood of our military presence in the Western Pacific. They provide readiness, if necessary, as far away as Africa and the Persian Gulf. This week in the Philippines, where those service people and their dependents live and work, this was the scene. Thousands demonstrating against the government of Ferdinand Marcos. Marcos has ruled the Philippines for over 20 years, but he faces increasingly bitter opposition. It comes from moderates who claim Marcos has made a shambles of true democracy, and it comes from communist insurgents trying to overthrow the government. Is Marcos on the edge, ready to topple? And if things get out of hand, are American military personnel and their families in danger? Geraldo Rivera is in the Philippines tonight and has this report from Manila.
Remember General Somoza of Nicaragua or the Shah of Iran? Well, as demonstrators march through the streets of Manila, that is the twin nightmare that haunts the government of the United States. Is President Marcos and the Philippines the next to go?
This mass protest yesterday marked the second anniversary of the murder of Benigno Aquino, an opposition leader assassinated as he returned here after years of exile in the United States. In the time since his death, this country has suffered tremendous political turmoil and social unrest. This is one of the most important reasons why we care about what happens in the Philippines: self-interest. This island nation is the site of our principal military bases in the Western Pacific, among the largest foreign bases we have anywhere in the world. Since the turn of the century, the huge U.S. naval base at Subic Bay, for example, has allowed the United States to project its power to the rim of Asia, while the equally impressive Clark Air Force Base demonstrated its vital strategic importance during the war in Vietnam. There are tens of thousands of American military personnel and their families stationed here. And last Sunday, the area around Clark Air Base looked like any small town back in the States. Families picnic. They attend church services. They play ball. And occasionally, they talk politics.
Out around the other islands, it's getting bad in a lot of other islands. We hear a lot of stories that you never see on the news or on the TV, but it'll never come this close.
Tech Sergeant Ken Hewitt is from the show-me state of Missouri. Perhaps that's the reason he's not buying the big threat from the Philippine government, that they'll throw out the U.S. bases if we don't stop complaining about the policies and problems of President Marcos.
It'd be a pretty dumb move if he did. He's threatened to a couple times, but I think he done it just so he could get bigger rent. If we was to ever leave, who was going to take over?
We have a job to do as far as the defense posture in the Pacific, and that is what we do, and we worry about our job. What is happening outside the base, as long as it doesn't affect our personal lives, nobody really worries about it. That's the State Department's job to worry about that.
But while some think the domestic and political turmoil here will not affect the Americans or our bases, others, like Airman Bill Minton and his wife Donna, are worried.
The people have changed a lot since I've been here. You can feel there's a lot of pressure building up to them. They're tired of this. They're tired of living like this. I can't blame them.
As the Filipino people become more restless with their own government, do you think that that will have a negative effect on, well, the way they treat you?
I hope not. I hope that they don't look at it that way. I just hope that they don't look at it that way.
For Bill and Donna Minton and the other Americans stationed at Clark Air Force Base, potential trouble is no further away than this mountain overlooking their baseball field. Hidden on it and in other rugged areas of the country, a communist guerrilla army of about 15,000 is fighting to topple the government of President Marcos. Unlike the opposition politicians who seek change through the ballot box, the new People's Army, as it's called, is using classic communist tactics of coercion and violence to destabilize the Marcos regime. The American-equipped Philippine Armed Forces are fighting back, killing and capturing some of their enemy, but they say the communists are growing stronger. In the province of Bataan, scene of the infamous World War II Death March, on Tuesday we accompanied a Philippine Marine patrol. They seem good soldiers and will be hard to beat on the battlefield, but as in Vietnam, the fight is also for the hearts and minds of the people. And on that front, at least, they don't seem to be doing as well. In June, a detachment of Marines allegedly massacred about a dozen squatters who refused to leave their homes. The property they refused to leave belonged to a son-in-law of President Marcos. The government denies the charge and claims their opponents are to blame both for the violence that plagues this country and for the relatively slow pace of political reform. Many American legislators agree.
I think that President Marcos has been good for the Philippines. I think that he could have made more democratic changes, perhaps faster, but again, he's faced with a communist insurgency, as they are in South Korea and other parts of the world, and we certainly should not be demanding that these changes be made. We should be asking for and encouraging them to be made.
President Marcos agrees. He told me today that while he will listen to advice from American officials, all decisions regarding his country are his own.
In fairness to some of the Americans who have been outgoing in making recommendations, even on internal matters, they take it when you say, all right, you give me advice on that, but I make the decisions.
Is that basically your position?
Yes, of course. But it wouldn't look good, I tell them, if it comes out that you and I have been talking about this, so you better keep quiet about it.
One issue many American congressmen will not keep quiet about is the assassination of Benigno Aquino. If that slain opposition leader has left a political heir, it's his wife, Cory.
I want to continue the momentum that he has started until we finally see the restoration of our rights and freedoms in this country.
Do you have any faith that the government will ever find out who is really responsible for the murder of your husband?
No, because as I've said, my number one suspect is Mr. Marcos himself. So this government is headed by Marcos, so it is impossible.
Virtually no one in this country believes the Philippine government is totally innocent in his murder. The real question, though, has been how far up in the Marcos administration does the responsibility go? Although the evidence so far presented has not directly implicated the president, like a rising tide, the charges are now lapping at his ankles.
If there was a concerted effort to assassinate your husband because he posed a threat to the government, if indeed that's what happened, then wouldn't that same principle apply to you?
Yes, but like my husband, I am fatalistic, and if there is something I believe I should do, then I will just continue doing it regardless.
Cory Aquino has refused to say whether or not she will be a candidate. If the government does not declare martial law, elections for the presidency could take place anytime over the next 2 years. Regardless of who the next leader of the Philippines is, this country is being crushed by social and economic problems. Look at this slum, for example, just minutes from downtown Manila. It's a shanty town that's literally set right on top of a garbage heap. It's a filthy, stinking insult to human dignity and to the rights of man. The infant mortality rate is about 5 times that of the United States. On average, the Filipino people live about 10 years less than we do. Their per capita income is $630 a year, and even that is being eaten away by an inflation rate of about 25%. But while millions of these people are poor and hungry, they are by no means stupid. Their literacy rate is very high, about 90%. They know what's going on, and many of them were outraged by recent charges, first reported by the San Jose Mercury newspaper, that Imelda Marcos, First Lady of the Philippines, has privately been buying up millions of dollars worth of American real estate, even as her people sink deeper into poverty. At an exclusive interview conducted just today at the ornate presidential palace, Mrs. Marcos did not deny the allegations, but she did say they were exaggerated.
Are the charges on the real estate true or false, if you want to?
It's really, this is all a rumor. I'm amazed the many places that I have been to or passed through or been invited to has been mine. No, now it looks like everywhere I go, I must use blinkers for fear that every place that I look and put my eyes and is mine. And this is a bit unfortunate, and this just shows that they must be surely bankrupt of issues, that they can go this low. But this is understandable. This is part of the political game, I suppose.
Our policy in supporting the Marcos regime is ostrich-like. It's an example of see no evil, hear no evil, do no evil. Marcos is extremely unpopular with the Philippine public. It is not just the peasants in the northern islands who are rebelling against Marcos. It's major establishment business people.
Business people like Ramon del Rosario, a graduate of the Harvard Business School and a prosperous banker.
Do you think it's fair to say that you personally are being radicalized by the events in your country?
I think so. I am saying things that 2 years ago I would never have dreamt of saying. I call Marcos a dictator, and I never even did that before. And I'm agitating for, I guess, for the president to resign. This is highly unusual for a banker to do in this country. I guess in that sense, I march in the streets. Even that was something that was totally unheard of 2 years ago. And I'm not alone. Certainly there are a few of us at least who do it.
Our continued support of President Marcos is not without its cost. In hotel fire bombings last October, and again in February, at least a dozen Americans were burned to death. Some of them were veterans returning to the scene of their World War II battlefields. This terrorist claims he lit one of the fires.
We regret the deaths. We do. But urban guerrilla warfare from the Latin American experience has targeted American institutions. And if the perception from the Philippines is that the U.S. continues to prop up the Marcos dictatorship, then I think that historical trend will occur here in the Philippines.
Fighting international terrorism, protecting our vital military bases and our citizens over here. Important reasons for hoping this crisis is resolved at the ballot box instead of the battlefield. In fact, there are 17,206 more reasons. The Americans who died defending, then liberating this country during the Second World War. Buried in Manila, they are Yankees who can never go home.